Wheat belly, lose the wheat, lose the weight, and find your path back to health, by William Davis, MD. Introduction. Have you ever flipped through an old family album? I mean really old, from your grandparents' or even great-grandparents' time. Look closely at those black and white photos from the 1950s or 60s. What do you see? Or rather, what don't you see? You don't see rampant obesity. The women are often slender, wearing dresses that would be a size 4 today. The men have trim waists. Overweight was a matter of a few extra pounds, not a national crisis. You almost never see an overweight child. Now, think about the world today. We go to the mall, the beach, or just look in the mirror, and the picture is dramatically different. Why were people from that era so much thinner? It's a real mystery when you stop to think about it. Those women didn't go to the gym. They didn't put on jogging shoes for a 3-mile run. For many of them, exercise was vacuuming the stairs. Yet today, we see people everywhere jogging, cycling, power walking, and we, as a society, are getting heavier with each passing year. What if I told you that the answer to this mystery isn't what we've all been told? It's not just about eating less fat or avoiding sugar. It's not just about exercising more. What if the real culprit is something we've been told is healthy? Something that's a staple on almost every table in the country. Today, we're going to explore a book that presents a radical and, for many, life-changing idea. It's called Wheat Belly, written by cardiologist Dr. William Davis. This book makes a bold claim that the world's most popular grain is also the world's most destructive dietary ingredient. Dr. Davis isn't just a doctor, he's a detective. He saw thousands of patients who were doing everything right. They were cutting fat, exercising, and eating plenty of healthy whole grains, yet they were still struggling with weight, diabetes, heart disease, and a host of other ailments. He started to wonder if the very advice they were following was the source of the problem. And so began a journey that led him to an astonishing conclusion. The wheat we eat today is not the same wheat our grandparents ate. It's a modern, genetically altered creation of agricultural science, a Frankengrain designed for high yield, but with unforeseen consequences for our health. By the end of our time together today, you will understand why Dr. Davis argues that eliminating this single ingredient can lead to dramatic weight loss, reverse chronic diseases, and restore your energy and mental clarity. This isn't just a diet book, it's an exposé. It's a story about how a seemingly innocent plant has quietly come to dominate our plates and wreak havoc on our bodies. So, get comfortable, and let's unravel the story of the wheat belly. Book summary. Let's begin with a simple, yet startling fact that sits at the very heart of this entire story. If you take 2 slices of whole wheat bread, and you take a bowl with 2 tablespoons of pure table sugar, which one do you think raises your blood sugar more? Every bit of conventional wisdom tells you it's the sugar. Sugar is the villain, right? We're told to avoid it. But whole wheat bread, that's the hero. It's a healthy whole grain, packed with fiber, a complex carbohydrate. Well, the science tells a different story, and it's a shocking one. Those 2 slices of whole wheat bread increase blood sugar levels more than the 2 tablespoons of pure sugar. In some studies, it's not even a close competition. The glycemic index, which is a scale that measures how quickly a food spikes your blood sugar, gives whole wheat bread a score of 72. Table sugar, or sucrose, has a score of 59. Even a Mars candy bar scores lower than whole wheat bread. This single fact is so profound, it's the key that unlocks the entire mystery of the wheat belly. Dr. Davis argues that this is the starting point for a cascade of problems that extends far beyond just a little extra weight around the middle. So, how is this possible? How can a complex carbohydrate be worse than a simple sugar? The answer lies in the unique chemistry of wheat itself. About 75% of the carbohydrate in wheat is a compound called amylopectin, and now, other foods have amylopectin, beans have amylopectin C, and bananas have amylopectin B, but the A version found in wheat is special. It's what Dr. Davis calls a supercarbohydrate. It is more efficiently and rapidly digested into glucose by our bodies than almost any other carbohydrate on the planet. When you eat a bagel or a bran muffin, this amylopectin A is converted into blood sugar with stunning speed. This causes a massive surge in your blood glucose. In response, your pancreas releases a flood of insulin, the hormone whose job is to shuttle all that sugar out of your bloodstream and into your cells. And what does insulin do with excess sugar? It converts it to fat. This isn't just any fat. The high insulin cycle triggered by wheat preferentially creates a specific and particularly dangerous type of fat, visceral fat. This is the fat that accumulates deep within your abdomen, wrapping itself around your organs like your liver, kidneys, and pancreas. On the outside, it shows up as that protuberant, flop over the belt belly that has become so common. Dr. Davis calls it the wheat belly. This isn't just a cosmetic issue. Visceral fat isn't just a passive storage depot for extra calories. It's a metabolically active organ, a 24/7 factory that pumps out inflammatory signals throughout your body. It disrupts your normal hormonal balance. For men, this visceral fat factory even produces estrogen, leading to the dreaded man boobs. The more visceral fat you have, the more inflammation you create, and the more your body becomes resistant to insulin. This creates a vicious cycle. You eat wheat, your blood sugar spikes, your insulin surges, you store visceral fat, you become more insulin resistant. So the next time you eat wheat, your pancreas has to pump out even more insulin to do the same job. On and on it goes, day after day, meal after meal. And it's a cycle that fuels itself through appetite. After that big insulin surge clears the sugar from your blood sugar often crashes. This hypoglycemic low is what makes your stomach growl just 2 hours after a big bowl of healthy cereal. It's what causes that mental fog, that fatigue, that desperate craving for another snack. Your body is screaming for more sugar to bring your levels back up. And what do most people reach for? More crackers, more pretzels, another sandwich. They get another wheat hit, and the roller coaster ride begins all over again. So you see, the very food we're told to eat for sustained energy is actually creating a cycle of sharp highs and crashing lows, a cycle of satiety followed by intense hunger. It's a trap. But as we're about to discover, the blood sugar spike is only half of the story. There's another, even more insidious reason why wheat has such a powerful hold on us. It has to do with what wheat does not just to our bellies, but to our brains. What if I told you that wheat is, for some people, an addictive drug? It sounds like an exaggeration, a wild claim, but there's a fascinating, and somewhat disturbing, area of science that backs this up. Dr. Davis tells the story of how he would often hear his patients, well-dressed, intelligent people, confess things like, "Bread is my crack. I just can't give it up." They would describe an obsessive, all-consuming craving for wheat products. They'd dream about bread. When they tried to eliminate it, they experienced withdrawal symptoms, extreme fatigue, mental fog, irritability, even depression. This isn't just a lack of willpower, it's a biological phenomenon. The story begins, strangely enough, with research into schizophrenia. In the mid-1960s, a psychiatrist named Dr. F. Curtis Dohan made a peculiar observation. During World War II, when food shortages made bread scarce in parts of Europe, hospital admissions for schizophrenia dropped significantly. After the war, when wheat consumption resumed, the hospitalizations shot back up. He saw a similar pattern in cultures like those in New Guinea, where schizophrenia was virtually unknown until Western eating habits, including wheat, were introduced. This led to a series of experiments that, while ethically questionable by today's standards, were incredibly revealing. Dr. Dohan and his colleagues removed all wheat products from the meals of schizophrenic patients in a hospital ward, without their knowledge. Within weeks, there were measurable improvements. The patients experienced fewer auditory hallucinations, fewer delusions, and were less detached from reality. Then, the researchers secretly added wheat back into their diets. The symptoms rushed right back. Remove the wheat. They got better. Add it back. They got worse. This raises a profound question. What is in this seemingly benign grain that could worsen psychosis? Scientists at the National Institutes of Health decided to find out. They took gluten, the main protein in wheat, and subjected it to a simulated digestive process. What they found was that digestion breaks gluten down into a mix of polypeptides. These polypeptides had a very peculiar property. They were able to cross the blood-brain barrier, which is the protective wall that separates your brain from your bloodstream. Once inside the brain, these wheat-derived polypeptides bind to the very same receptors that opiate drugs like heroin and morphine bind to. The scientists called these compounds exorphins, short for exogenous morphine-like compounds. The most dominant one they named gluteomorphin. Think about that for a moment. The digestion of a simple bagel creates compounds that act on your brain's opiate receptors. This provides a form of reward, a mild euphoria. It's not the intense high of a narcotic, but it's a pleasant feeling that encourages you to eat more. And just like any opiate, when you stop consuming it, you can experience withdrawal. The proof of this connection is even more startling. There's a drug called naloxone. It's an opiate blocker. In an emergency room, if an addict comes in high on heroin, a shot of naloxone will instantly reverse the effects. It blocks the opiate receptors in the brain. Well, when lab animals are given wheat exorphins and then given naloxone, the effect of the exorphins is completely blocked. The very same drug that turns off heroin also turns off the brain effects of wheat. This isn't just a phenomenon in schizophrenics or lab rats. Studies on regular people have shown that when they are given naloxone, their calorie intake drops significantly, especially their consumption of wheat-based snacks. Why? Because the euphoric reward is gone. The wheat no longer provides that subtle, feel-good hit that drives you to keep eating. So, this is your brain on wheat. It generates morphine-like compounds that give you a little lift, stimulating your appetite not out of true hunger, but out of a desire for that reward. It creates a cycle of addiction and withdrawal. This explains why a radical wheatectomy, as Dr. Davis calls it, can be so difficult for the first week or so. You're not just breaking a habit, you're breaking a biochemical addiction. When you put these two pieces together, the amylopectin, a blood sugar roller coaster, and the exorphin-driven brain effects, you have created the perfect storm for weight gain. You have a food that spikes your insulin, telling your body to store fat, while simultaneously creating a physical craving that makes you want more of it, even when you're not truly hungry. It's a 1-2 punch that has contributed massively to the obesity epidemic. But the damage, as we're about to see, doesn't stop at the waistline. This altered grain wages a quiet war on nearly every organ in your body. The most well-known, and perhaps most devastating, example of wheat's destructive power is celiac disease. This is where the body's immune system launches an all-out attack on the small intestine in response to gluten exposure. For about 1% of the population, even a tiny breadcrumb can trigger a reaction that destroys the delicate lining of the intestine, leading to debilitating cramps, diarrhea, and severe malnutrition. But what's truly alarming is that celiac disease is on the rise. A fascinating study from the Mayo Clinic looked at blood samples from Air Force recruits that were taken and frozen 50 years ago. When they tested these old samples for celiac markers and compared them to modern samples, they found that the incidence of the disease has increased fourfold. Now, 50 years is a blink of an eye in terms of human genetics. We haven't changed, so what has? The wheat has. The author suggests that the changes in the gluten proteins of modern wheat, created through decades of hybridization, may be responsible for this dramatic increase in immune reactivity. The story of celiac disease teaches us a crucial lesson. It is not always just a gut problem. It's known as the great imitator, because for half the people who have it, the primary symptoms are not digestive. They might have anemia, migraine headaches, arthritis, infertility, or chronic fatigue. The immune attack triggered by wheat can manifest anywhere in the body. Dr. Davis argues that we should think of celiac disease as just the most extreme expression of a much broader spectrum of gluten sensitivity or immune-mediated gluten intolerance. He shares the powerful story of a patient named Wendy, a 36-year-old schoolteacher suffering from severe ulcerative colitis. For 10 years, she had lived with constant pain, cramping, and bleeding. She was on multiple toxic medications, and her doctors were telling her the next step was to remove her colon. She had been tested for celiac disease, and the test was negative. But Dr. Davis, seeing the connection between autoimmune diseases and wheat, urged her to try eliminating it for just 4 weeks. Skeptical, but desperate, she agreed. 3 months later, she walked into his office transformed. She had lost 38 pounds. Her ulcerative colitis was nearly gone. A year later, she was off all her medications, with no return of symptoms. She was cured. So, if she didn't have celiac disease, what did she have? She had a condition that was being triggered by wheat, a condition that modern medicine didn't have a neat label for, but which responded completely to the removal of the offending food. This opens up a huge and unsettling can of worms. If wheat can cause such a devastating inflammatory response in someone without classic celiac disease, what else can it do? The evidence points to a frighteningly long list of conditions. Let's talk about your joints. We often think of arthritis as a simple matter of wear and tear, especially from carrying extra weight. But it's more complicated than that. The same inflammatory signals pumped out by the visceral fat of a wheat belly also inflame and erode joint tissue. Furthermore, wheat contributes to a state of chronic, low-grade acidosis in the body. Unlike fruits and vegetables, which are alkaline, grains, and especially wheat, are highly acidic. To neutralize this acid, your body has to draw on its alkaline reserves. Where is the biggest reserve of alkaline minerals in your body? Your bones. Over years and decades of a grain-heavy diet, your body is constantly leaching calcium from your bones to buffer this acid load. This leads to osteopenia and osteoporosis, making your bones brittle and prone to fracture. But perhaps the most insidious damage is done through a process called glycation. Remember those high blood sugar spikes caused by wheat? When there's excess glucose in your bloodstream, it starts to stick to proteins throughout your body in an irreversible process that creates something called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. The acronym is grimly appropriate, because AGEs are one of the primary drivers of the aging process. They muck up the proteins in your body, making tissues stiff and dysfunctional. Glycation clouds the lenses of your eyes, leading to cataracts. It stiffens your arteries, causing atherosclerosis and high blood pressure. It damages the cartilage in your joints, making them brittle and arthritic. It even gums up the neuronal connections in your brain, contributing to dementia. Diabetes is the perfect model for accelerated aging, because diabetics live in a state of chronic high blood sugar and therefore, high glycation. They develop heart disease, kidney failure, and dementia at a much younger age. Because wheat spikes blood sugar more than almost any other food, it is a powerful engine for glycation and accelerated aging. Every bagel, every croissant, every slice of healthy whole grain bread is contributing to this process, slowly stiffening and aging your body from the inside out. And then there's the heart. For decades, we were told that the key to heart health was avoiding saturated fat and cholesterol. But this has turned out to be a massive and tragic oversimplification. Modern lipoprotein analysis has shown us that the real danger isn't just high cholesterol. It's the type of cholesterol particles you have. The most dangerous are the small, dense LDL particles. These are the ones that are small enough to wiggle their way into the artery walls, become oxidized and glycated, and trigger the inflammatory plaque that leads to heart attacks. So, what causes these dangerous small LDL particles to form? It's not fat, it's carbohydrates. When you eat a carbohydrate-rich diet, especially one high in wheat, you trigger a process in your liver called de novo lipogenesis, literally, making new fat. Your liver takes the excess sugar from the carbohydrates and converts it into triglycerides. These triglycerides are then packaged into VLDL particles. Through a series of reactions in the bloodstream, these VLDL particles are then converted into those small, dense, artery-clogging LDL particles. The advice to cut fat and eat more healthy whole grains has been a recipe for disaster. It has created the exact metabolic conditions that promote the most dangerous form of cholesterol and drive heart disease. By eliminating wheat, you shut down this process. Your triglycerides plummet, and your body stops producing the small LDL particles, shifting instead to the large, fluffy, and relatively harmless type of LDL. The reach of wheat's damage extends even to the most sacred and protected part of our body, the brain. We've already talked about the temporary, drug-like effects of exorphins. But there is growing evidence that the immune attack triggered by gluten can cause permanent, irreversible brain damage. There's a condition called gluten ataxia. It's a progressive disease where the immune system attacks the cerebellum, the part of the brain responsible for balance and coordination. People with this condition slowly lose their ability to walk, to control their movements, to even perform simple tasks. For the majority of them, there are no intestinal symptoms, no warning sign from their gut that gluten is the culprit. By the time the symptoms of imbalance appear, much of the damage is already done and is irreversible. Dr. Davis shares the story of Jason, a 26-year-old software programmer who was practically crippled by joint pain. He could barely walk. After seeing multiple specialists who had no answers, he was told to try eliminating wheat. 5 days later, his pain was completely gone. But the story has a more stunning twist. When Jason tried to reintroduce it, having a single sandwich, the pain came roaring back within minutes. His body was sending him an unmistakable signal. This immune attack can also affect the cerebral cortex, the center of memory and higher thought, leading to what is called gluten encephalopathy. It can cause migraines, stroke-like symptoms, and in the most extreme cases, a fatal form of dementia. Again, these are often people who have no gut symptoms of celiac disease. The war is being waged silently in their brain. Finally, let's talk about the body's largest organ, the skin. Dr. Davis calls it bagel face. The skin is an outward reflection of our internal health, and wheat can express itself on our skin in a myriad of ways. We see it in acne. In Western cultures, acne is a nearly universal rite of passage for teenagers. But in non-Westernized, hunter-gatherer cultures that don't consume wheat, sugar, or dairy, acne is non-existent. The high insulin spikes triggered by wheat stimulate hormones in the skin that lead to overproduction of oil and tissue growth, creating the perfect conditions for pimples to form. We also see it in a host of inflammatory rashes. The most common is dermatitis herpetiformis, an itchy, bumpy rash that is a direct skin manifestation of celiac disease. But the list goes on, including psoriasis, eczema, and even stranger and more disfiguring conditions. These rashes are the outward sign of an internal fire of inflammation, a fire being stoked by wheat consumption. Even hair loss, in the form of alopecia areata, can be a sign of a celiac-like inflammation of the hair follicles, a condition that often reverses completely once wheat is eliminated. When you step back and look at the full picture that Dr. Davis paints, it's staggering. We have a food that spikes blood sugar, causing a cycle of fat storage and hunger. It acts on the brain like an opiate, creating addiction and cravings. It triggers a wide spectrum of destructive immune and inflammatory responses, leading to arthritis, heart disease, diabetes, dementia, and dozens of skin conditions. And this is the food that we have been told, for the past 40 years, to eat more of for our health. It's a realization that is at first hard to swallow, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. The question then becomes, what do we do about it? How do we break free from the grip of this pervasive and powerful grain? The first step, according to Dr. Davis, is a simple but profound decision: to perform a radical wheatectomy. This means eliminating wheat completely, not just cutting back, but getting it out of your life entirely. The immediate reaction most people have is panic. But there's nothing left to eat. I'll starve. Wheat is everywhere. It's in bread, pasta, cereal, cookies, cakes, and crackers. But it's also a hidden ingredient in soups, sauces, salad dressings, and even things like lipstick and the glue on envelopes. It is the cornerstone of convenience food. Dr. Davis acknowledges that this transition can be tough, especially for the 30% of people who experience a true withdrawal syndrome. For the first week, you might feel fatigued, irritable, and mentally foggy. This is the combined effect of your body adapting to burning fat instead of a constant supply of sugar, and your brain getting cut off from its regular supply of exorphins. It's like nicotine withdrawal. It's unpleasant, but it's temporary, and it's a sign that you are breaking a powerful addiction. So, what do you eat instead? The answer is simple. You eat real food. You fill the calorie gap left by wheat with an abundance of vegetables, raw nuts, healthy oils like olive and coconut oil, meats, eggs, and cheese. The book provides a clear guide. Vegetables should be unlimited. Fruits should be consumed in moderation, especially high-sugar tropical fruits. Raw nuts are a superstar food that you can eat as much as you want. Healthy fats are not the enemy, they are essential. What about fiber and B vitamins? That's another myth. You will get far more fiber and nutrients by replacing 2 slices of whole wheat bread with a large salad or a handful of almonds. Real food is packed with the nutrients that processed, fortified wheat products are trying to imitate. One of the biggest traps to avoid is the world of gluten-free products. An entire industry has sprung up to create gluten-free breads, cookies, and pastas. But what are they made of? They are typically made from cornstarch, rice starch, potato starch, or tapioca starch. These are highly refined powdered starches that, in many cases, spike your blood sugar even more than wheat does. They are junk food in disguise. Replacing a wheat belly causing food with another wheat belly causing food is not a solution. Perhaps the most amazing thing that happens when you eliminate wheat is what happens to your relationship with food. Your appetite is no longer driven by a biochemical roller coaster. The constant, gnawing hunger disappears. You eat when you're truly hungry, and you're satisfied with less. You can go for hours without thinking about food. The afternoon slump, that sleepy fog that hits after a sandwich lunch, vanishes. You regain control. You are no longer a slave to the cravings dictated by this addictive grain. And then there's the odd phenomenon of re-exposure. Many people who have been wheat-free for a few months find that if they indulge in even a small amount, the reaction is swift and unpleasant. It might be hours of gas, bloating, and cramping that feels like food poisoning. It might be a return of joint aches or brain fog. Your body, once it has healed, sends you a very clear message: don't ever give me that stuff again. The journey away from wheat is more than just a diet. It's a fundamental shift in how you see food and how you experience your own body. It's about breaking free from a food that has quietly taken control of our health, our appetites, and even our minds. It's a path back to the way our bodies are meant to feel: energetic, clear-headed, and free from chronic pain and disease. It is, as the book's title promises, a path back to health. Commentary. When you finish a book like Wheat Belly, you're left with a feeling that's a mix of shock and, oddly enough, empowerment. The shock comes from realizing that a food so deeply woven into our culture, so celebrated as wholesome and necessary, could be the source of so much suffering. It forces you to question everything you thought you knew about healthy eating. It makes you look at the food pyramid, the heart-healthy labels on cereal boxes, and the advice of mainstream nutrition with a healthy dose of skepticism. Dr. Davis's work is a powerful reminder that science is a process of discovery, and sometimes the most profound discoveries are the ones that overturn our most cherished beliefs. For decades, we waged a war on fat, and in the process, we surrendered our health to an army of refined carbohydrates, led by their five-star general, modern wheat. But the real power of this book isn't just in the problems it exposes, it's in the simple, elegant solution it offers. The message isn't to buy some expensive supplement or subscribe to a complicated meal plan. The message is to remove the offending agent and let your body do what it does best: heal itself. This idea is incredibly empowering. It takes the control out of the hands of the food industry and the pharmaceutical companies, and puts it back into your hands. It tells you that you are not destined to be overweight, diabetic, or in pain. You are not a victim of your genes or a slowing metabolism. You have a choice. You can choose to stop eating the food that is making you sick. For a young person, like yourself, this message is especially crucial. You have the opportunity to sidestep decades of the health problems that have become the norm for your parents' and grandparents' generations. You can learn this lesson now, instead of after years of struggle. So, what's a practical way to start? You don't have to take Dr. Davis's word for it. You can run the experiment on yourself. The most powerful action you can take is to commit to a strict 100% wheat-free trial for just 4 weeks. Don't just cut back. Go all in. For 30 days, eliminate everything made from wheat. Read labels. Be vigilant. And just pay attention to how you feel. Notice your energy levels, your mental clarity, your sleep, your digestion, the aches and pains you might have thought were just a normal part of life. And yes, notice what happens to your weight, especially around your middle. For many, the results are so rapid and so profound that they become their own proof. After 30 days, you'll have your own data. You'll have your own answers. And that is more powerful than any study or any book. This isn't about deprivation. It's about discovery. It's about discovering that real food, vegetables, fruits, nuts, meats, eggs, is more satisfying and delicious than you ever imagined. It's about discovering what it feels like to be free from the constant cycle of craving and hunger. It is, ultimately, about discovering the vibrant health that has been waiting for you all along, just beneath the surface of a wheat-filled world. That was a summary of Wheat Belly by Dr. William Davis. We've certainly covered the main arguments today, but I have to be honest with you, A summary is like looking at a photograph of the Grand Canyon. It gives you the idea, but it can never capture the breathtaking experience of standing on the edge yourself. The real power of this book is in the details, the patient stories, the deep dive into the scientific studies, the way each piece of the puzzle clicks into place. This summary is your map, designed to help you decide if this is a journey worth taking. If anything we've talked about today has struck a chord, if it has made you curious or given you a flicker of hope, then I truly encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning, it's about experiencing that aha moment for yourself, a moment that could genuinely change your relationship with food and your health for the rest of your life. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it sparked some new ideas for you, please do me a small favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Every week, we explore big ideas that can help us build better lives. Let's keep growing together,